All right, so I'm gonna do this little intro. This is after I actually made the recording, you know what I'm saying? But every now and then I get little afterthoughts once I hit the stop button. So I'm gonna go over Cancer New Moon, Conjunct Jupiter. I got a couple little stories in there, to tell that hopefully holds up the meaning or some of it. But here's what I want us to think about with Cancer Jupiter New Moon transit. All right, New Moon. Listen, we should know by now that we went through the phases of deliverance, the wilderness, and freedom. All right? Matter of fact, somebody down there, tell me what you understand. Okay? According to what you've been listening to, let me know what you understand about deliverance, wilderness, and freedom. Those three steps. Please, somebody down there, let me know. What did you learn or what do you understand about those things in the phase where we at? You know what I mean? Let's get some feedback. Please help me out. So, being that we're in the phase of freedom now, remember what has to go with freedom, right? Accountability and moral responsibility. Okay, you remember that? What goes with freedom? Accountability and moral responsibility. So, what Jupiter introduces to this conjunction with the new moon, which it is conjunct the sun, it is also conjunct the moon, it's leadership. Okay? It's where you are going to show moral conviction, leadership through moral conviction. Leadership through moral and philosophical insight. The things that you suffered of the Aries Chiron transit, the things that you suffered and transformed and healed of the Cancer Mars retrograde, Jupiter is holding that, as well as your karmic lessons of Pisces in the 12th house. Jupiter, it holds those philosophies, that wisdom, that understanding. Jupiter holds it. And that is what Jupiter uses to make a leader of you. Jupiter uses that to make a leader of you. Okay? Leadership. And that's where in your chart, where this new moon is taking place, you are going to show leadership right there. Understand? That's where you're going to show leadership. And the leadership is, as you express your freedom, you're going to remember to include moral responsibility. The moral responsibility is going to come from the insights of expansive Jupiter, ruler of the 9th house, ruler of the 12th house, ruler of Sagittarius, ruler of Pisces. We just came from the Sagittarius full moon. Of course, Pisces, Saturn just finished moving karma through there. The conclusion of our karma through there. Okay? So this is where we have to remember our moral responsibility. Your insights to that moral responsibility, it comes from, those four things that I mentioned of Chiron, Cancer Mars retrograde, Saturn transiting Pisces, Sagittarius new moon to full moon phase, 6 months. All of this is in your newfound philosophy. And your newfound philosophy is what upholds your moral conviction. Okay? Cancer is about morals. Your moral conviction. Jupiter expands that and brings a higher understanding to support it. It brings conviction to support it. It brings faith to support it. Okay? Conviction and faith. So, Jupiter holding conviction and faith paired with morals. Okay? You speak with conviction about the compass of right and wrong, showing everyone the right direction of right or wrong. Okay? You are also rooting in your ancestral origins, taking pride in it, because that is where your ancestors from the 4th house have given you their conclusive findings of moral value, where you inherited that. You understand? So I want us to, among all things, remember that this is a beginning of our expression of freedom, with us keeping connected to our moral responsibility as we express our freedom. This is a different version of ourselves collectively, okay? Because South Node Libra, the liberal world, feminism, the Machiavellian Capricorn Pluto consciousness that we were carrying, get to the bag, the ibex that climbs the mountain ruthlessly, full of ambition, selling souls on the way up, okay? We are self-correcting now through these phases. We are self-correcting through phases such as Cancer New Moon conjunct Jupiter. This is a self-correction of that, okay? It goes against everything that feminism was about. Especially at Cancer representing the mature image of the woman, the honorable image of the woman, the noble image of the woman, the sacred image of the woman. Okay, that goes with Virgo and Cancer. Okay, the transformational, resilient version of the woman through Scorpio, Mary Magdalene. Okay, there are many versions of the woman, Libra being the least. Okay, and why do I say least? Because that's the adolescent version of the woman. Okay, before that she has understanding. That's who she is before she has understanding. Okay, she has knowledge there, but she don't have understanding or wisdom when it comes to her archetype through Libra. Okay, this is the highest form of the woman is Cancer. Okay, because Yemeya, the moon, that's the mother of all Orishas, impulses, or planets. Understand that. Okay, this is the highest version. So this is where, specifically for women, the moral compass returns. Okay, where she no longer is making decisions or taking leadership and influence based on social media, her friends, okay, validation, attention, so on and so forth. This is where she is going to be given reason by karmic circumstances, by karmic opportunity, by fated circumstances and opportunity, to see her moral obligation in her free expressions. Okay, to realize her moral obligations in her free expressions. Children are watching. Should I be doing this? I'm representing my demographic. Should I be doing this? I'm representing brothers that look like me. Should I be doing this? It's little things like that. You know what I mean? It's little things like that. To thyself do no harm, to others do no harm. What if that was me? So on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? We're incorporating moral conviction now. Showing leadership with it. Understand that. This goes with freedom. I cannot emphasize that enough. At the same time, while Mars is going through Virgo, it's establishing the other side of freedom, which is accountability. Okay? Accountability, because Virgo represents where we relate to our responsibilities. Okay? And Mars took an Adderall when it comes to our responsibilities. So we are hyper aware of and hypersensitive to what we have responsibility to. So both of these together, it's the left wing and the right wing of freedom. Accountability and moral responsibility. Okay? So this is our training wheels towards exercising our freedom. We can't have freedom as civilized people without moral conviction and responsibility, and without a sense of accountability. Understand that. Thank you for listening. Please remember to hit the like, the share, and subscribe. Also hit the notifications button so that you know when new content comes, so you can stay aligned, Your comments are always welcome. Comment below, show what you understand, show what you absorb, what you receive. And also, if you could share some wisdom, we all can benefit from it. So always encourage you, huh? Either way, what I want to encourage you to do is that whenever we have a new transit, you want to schedule for your natal birth chart reading so that you understand on a personal level how this affects you, what it means for you. It's great to listen to this, to absorb it, and also to have some personal reflection about what it is that you're hearing. But to schedule for your personal natal birth chart reading is what's most effective, especially if you're staying consistent with it. Understand. Please enjoy, continue on, show your support, huh? All right. Cancer new moon, conjunct Jupiter, here it is. Standing at 4 degrees. You know that new moon phases are new beginnings. Full moon phases are culminations and closings. Because this consists with the moon, it deals with our emotional tolerance, capacity, focus, what we are emotionally invested in or connected to. At the full moon, those things detach. At the new moon, they attach, or better word, connect. Okay, so we're about to start a new connection to what we are emotionally drawing from, what we are emotionally extracting from in life, and also in the opposite direction, what we are emotionally available to or entertaining. At the full moon, we close off our emotional availability to something that has come to completion. It usually manifests as an annoyance, a discomfort, a feeling of being fed up, intolerance, impatience, coming to the end of that rope. But because this is a new moon, it's where these connections are going to begin from scratch, from the start. What this indicates is that a new body is formed. Well, what do I mean by new body is formed? A new body in the sense that in the phases of deliverance, the wilderness, and freedom, if you've been following, if this is oblivious to you, you have no idea what I'm talking about, ask the question down below. We're coming out of the phases of deliverance, wilderness, and freedom with the new body. The new body is, this time around, we have to be authentic. This time around, we have to be ourselves, not the ideal of Rothschild Rockefeller, not the ideals of feminism, not the ideal of liberalism. All of these past regimes and illusions are now over. We're also stepping out of the Machiavellian mind state of the shadow number 8. Understand? Aries is a point of focus because we are downloading the most authentic expression of the self. We had a crisis with the inner child through the Cancer Mars retrograde, to reconcile, which puts us in position to be receptive right now concerning Cancer new moon, new beginnings, and Jupiter, even to the point of this being an expansive opportunity. There's a great deal of positivity in where we're at. Jupiter includes optimism, creativity, competence, higher education, high standards, morals, values, in which Jupiter does represent the higher self. We're coming from the high ground with this, the better version of the self. And that better version of the self, it has to be nurtured. Any body has to be nurtured. That's what Cancer is. Cancer is the breast. And when you put Jupiter with Cancer, it is very large breasts. Okay? You will even find this in a person's physical anatomy. Someone who has Jupiter in Cancer, they usually have very large breasts if they're female. Not trying to be, what's the word, facetious, but, just keeping it real. What are breasts for? They're there for comfort, primarily to nurture, emotional security. They're even a thing of beauty. Everything that breasts are is what Cancer is. Everything that breasts indicate is what the moon in Cancer indicates. They are the archetype of each other. So likewise, women are the same. The characteristics of a woman is to embody the benefit of the breast, which is to provide nurturing, comfort, reassurance, emotional security. There are many ways that can manifest. Our new body has to be nurtured to strength. It has to be nurtured to avoid rickets, okay? Anybody know what rickets is? That's when, a child is malnourished, okay, not getting enough nutrition in its early years, and the bone structure, the integrity of the bone structure begins to be compromised, okay? In opposition to Cancer, or the polarity of Cancer that is Capricorn. So what we have in opposition to all of this taking place is Pholus. Now I'm about to describe the balance. Pholus, which is an asteroid, it indicates unexpected events that triggers deep transformation. They are experiences and events that you do not expect to take you down the pathways that it does. You end up somewhere that you could have never fathomed. And it forces you to grow. It forces you to transform. It forces you to mature, shed some old skin. That's what Pholus does. It shakes things up. It changes your rhythm. It changes your patterns. It interrupts and disrupts. And we're lured into those events in innocence. You think that, you're pulling a string in a sweater. Next thing you know, you unknitted the whole entire sweater. It's one of those. It's a Pandora's box. One day, for example, as an example of Pholus, when I had gotten a divorce in my 20s, I was a devout Muslim, praying 5 times a day, fasting for Ramadan, all of those different things. And it was during the month of Ramadan. I was working construction on Navy ships, things like that. And a friend of mine, he calls me up, hey, what you doing tonight? What's going on? We hanging out, talking, stuff like that. And he didn't have a vehicle. So, he asked me to drop him off at a club. I never been to a club before, at this point. You know, I was 26. I think I was 26 years old, maybe a little 25, 26. And so I drop him off at the club. And the next week, the following week, I ended up going with him. Okay, I went out with him. And we're standing in the line, and the people just let me through for free. They was like, oh, yeah, we got the VIP ready. Sorry it took so long. And I'm looking at like, VIP, like, what do you mean? VIP. He was like, yeah. He said, you're a Jag, right? Yeah, we got you. We straight. I didn't mean for it to take that long, but hey, man, it's good. Yeah. When's everybody else getting here? So the guy I'm with, he caught on to it. I didn't. Okay. He was like, yo, just go. So we walk into, the club, and I look around. I'm like, yo, what was that? What was that about? He said he thought you was a Jaguar, so he let you in for free. He was giving you the VIP because Jags is coming tonight. Jacksonville Jaguars are football players. He thought I was one of the football players, because, I was all big and swole. I still am, but I'm not as perfect as I was back then, but you know what I mean? He thought I was a football player. And I wasn't aware of the Jacksonville Jaguars because, I was new to Jacksonville, Florida at the time, And we're sitting in the VIP. One of the security guys comes back. And he's like, hey, so how long you been playing? I was like, look, man, I'm be honest with you. I don't play ball. You know what I'm saying? They let me through. If you need me to leave, I'll leave. But, they just let us do it. It was just a misunderstanding, whatever. So, he didn't sweat it. We just kicking in, talking. He was like, yeah, nah, you good, man. Just chill. When they come, just blend in, whatever. So he asked me, I was like, hey, man, you ever did security before? And I was like, nah, I never did security. I did with the FOI, the Nation of Islam. I was a captain, in the Nation of Islam. And in the Nation of Islam, I did, security in many, events and, for Farrakhan and, other speakers and leaders, and stuff like that in that community. But he was asking me if I didn't mind to, fill in for some events at the club doing security. I was open to it. I thought I'd try it. He said it was, I'll make a few dollars or whatever. So I was like, yeah, why not? And that little event, it turned into, 5 years later. From that point on, not expecting it, now I'm a bouncer at nightclubs for 5 years, and I went from the nightclubs after 2 years to the strip clubs and whatever else. And that's where I got a speed course on a world that my devotion to my religion didn't let me get exposed to. And I got exposed to that world. It was like a speed course that caught me up with a side of human nature that I needed to get familiar with, obviously, because later on I would teach from it. Later on, I would guide my paths through it. Later on, it would serve as wisdom and insight. It's so many things. And also, it was a speed course to help me to get over being impressed with women. Okay? And you might say, well, what does that have anything to do with it? Well, I got Venus in the 12th house. Okay? So I started out with a demon that has me very lustful about women. Even to the point where, if I wasn't responsible of myself, if I didn't learn the things that I did, I would probably be a womanizer. You know what I'm saying? Because I have a ferocious appetite for beautiful women, you know, and my devotion to my religion, again, as a Muslim, it didn't allow me to get consumed by that because of my practice, because of the brothers I was groomed by, you know, who I was always around. I was always around Muslims all my life. You know what I'm saying? And when you're around Muslims, they sharpen you, they correct you, they hold you accountable, they discipline you. You know what I'm saying? You can't do stuff like abuse your wife, do drugs, gamble, drink, you know, smoke. You can't do anything of bad character without Muslims holding you accountable when you live in a Muslim community, you know. And I came up like that. I came up where you had to answer to people, and people will look you in your eyes and see something ain't right, and you know they'll surround you, you know, and they'll support you, they'll help you, or they will, you know, put pressure on you to do better, to be better. You know, that's how I was grown. That's how I was raised, you know, by Muslims. A brotherhood, a strong brotherhood, and I tell you, we really need that these days. But anyway, that's what kept me from getting consumed by that Venus in the 12th house, you know, because otherwise I could have been a fornicator. I could have been, you know, I just could have been wilding behind that. Now, here's the thing. Because I'm protected by that community, the Muslim community, I never got to know that I really struggled with, you know, my appetite for women. I never got to know that because you're being protected by the brotherhood. You're being protected by Islam. You're being protected by your religion. That, you know, Muslims, we don't hug women. We don't shake women's hands. And it's not because they got a disease or something's wrong with them. It's because you close any door that leads to any type of misunderstandings. You just don't, you just close the door that leads to any type of misunderstandings. When we congregate at the masjid or the mosque, women are on one side, men are on one side. We do not mix together. We don't sit together. You know what I'm saying? You don't gawk and stare, you know, at women. Women are covered with hijab and, you know, jilbab. And it's not oppression, it's protection for them. You know, it's a practice of chastity, of modesty, of respect. You know what I mean? In Muslim communities, women are highly respected. And women are very, very protected. Okay? If a man gets out of line with a woman in a Muslim community, you got a problem on your hands. You know what I mean? And so anyway, I wouldn't know that I had an issue with women until I got away from that community. Okay, it may have looked innocent to me that, okay, my brother seen I had a divorce or whatever. So, hey, just come down here, get away from things, clear your head. You know, we got you. You can work with us on the Navy ships. You know what I'm saying? So I left there and I came down to Florida and, you know, was working with them. And it turned into, you know, a long career, you know, and I've been doing this for like 20 years, 20 years now, you know, 18 years now. You know what I mean? And so, so in other words, I must have been like 23 then in that case when this happened, 23, somewhere around there. But anyway, they asked me to come down there. Okay, I came down there with them. That changed things. And it ended up leading to where I got into the nightclub life. And this started a speed course with me not only realizing that I have a problem with women, not a problem, but I have a lust or appetite for women, but it also exposed me to who I am when it comes to that, how I move, how I think, how I behave. I got to see parts of myself that I had to confront, that I had to show accountability to, that I really had to address and dig really deep. Where is this coming from? You know what I'm saying? Because one thing leading to another, I ended up creating problems for myself. I ended up creating trials and karma for myself when it came to females because my lust was unchecked. It was uncontrolled. It took a long time for it to unravel. But it's the fact that I was away from the influence of, Islam, the Muslim brothers in that community, to where now the question is, what do you have in you that sustains you? What do you have about you that keeps you from this behavior? What do you have about your character, what you understand, your wisdom, your strength, what's in your power to keep you from falling prey to that impulse in yourself? And so I got to meet that part of myself. Now a deep transformation has to take place over these 5-6 years. Because I spent 5-6 years, you know what I'm saying, womanizing, fornicating, playing, you know what I mean? I ran through I ran through a whole bunch of, Navy chicks off of the Navy ship, Army chicks, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the barracks, you know what I'm saying, busting ass. I was, running through the clubs, you know what I'm saying? Girls, girls, girls. I just had a problem with women where I just could not leave women alone. You know what I'm saying? I attracted them to me very easily. I got instant access to them all the time. And it just, I didn't realize these things about myself. I didn't realize that I had that power. I didn't realize I had that access. I didn't realize it was that easy for me to do. And then it went into higher levels of, government officials and doctors and lawyers and all these other things, when I left there and went to Atlanta doing the same thing. And it just exposed me as being someone who didn't meet parts of the self that they should have met. And now that you meet these demons in yourself, what are you going to do about it? Right? Because you're not only harming yourself, you're harming others. You're not only sowing oppression for yourself, you're sowing it for others. And, you break a lot of hearts as you're doing this. You cause a lot of confusion and drama. You have soul ties that you're dragging all over the place. You know what I'm saying? I could have got STDs. It's by the grace of God that I didn't. You know what I mean? I could have left a whole bunch of women pregnant. By the grace of God, I didn't. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, I can't say I regret the experiences, but I really look at that part of myself in disgust. I never want to be that person again, ever. I never want to be a fornicator, a womanizer, a promiscuous person, because when I was in that spell, I didn't realize that essentially what it is, it's an addiction. And when you have addictions, they show up in the 12th house. They do. You know what I mean? Because the addiction is a coping mechanism for fear, grief, and unresolved at the 12th house. It's a coping mechanism. You know what I'm saying? And it took many years for me to see, okay, this is an addiction, but where's the addiction coming from? And when you have an addiction, you're trying to justify it. You're feeding yourself technology. You're lying to yourself. You're lying to other people because you want to reserve your entitlement to have access to that addiction at all times. You don't want nothing to come between you and that addiction. And the way that this relates to Follis, as I was saying, is it was little events like that. Like my brother saying, hey, come down here, we got you, clear your head a little bit. That was one. And then the other Follis situation was, they thought I was a Jackson Jaguar, football player. Now I end up working at the nightclubs. But what it always leads to a deep transformation of the self is what it leads to. But it starts with something that that you underestimate. It starts with a small, insignificant event that you underestimate. You know what I mean? And what that led to was realizing that I didn't have any faculties, wisdom, power, personal authority. I didn't have anything to protect me from the shadow of that Venus in my 12th house. I was disarmed. So the only way to arm myself was to realize where I was vulnerable and to realize where I was weak and to know where it was coming from. It takes years to learn that lesson. It takes many years to learn that lesson because you have to go through it over and over again until you get it right. But the fact that I was destined to be in those environments, it was a speed course, okay, in me learning about women, about women's nature, about women's behavior, about human nature. Because I was so engaged not only at nightclubs, but in the daytime, Navy personnel, foreigners, construction environment, all these people and different crews and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And it was just, and then I'm at the masjid. You know what it's just I'm having a speed course on knowing people. A speed course about women and their psychology and how they really, this is how I know personally how I know women better than women know themselves, okay? And it didn't come from reading books. It comes from experience. Like I have personal up-close education with women because I experienced too many women. You know what I mean? I've experienced too many women, and I know for certain that I understand women's nature and psychology in a far more advanced way than any woman I have ever met. I know women better than women know themselves. That's a fact. That's what I know for sure. And I know that all this was meant to arrive me at that conclusion. And as follows. It was a deep transformation of myself that ends at me understanding women and also understanding myself as it relates to women. And if I understand myself as it relates to women, now I have authority over that Venus in the 12th house. It no longer can control me or rule me. I'm no longer impressed by pretty women. Big old ass and pretty faces. She look good and she this and she got that status and it. I done had all that. And I done had it too many times. So I'm sober now. None of that can impress me because I done been there, done that with all of that. And I done had it 1,000 times. So none of that could ever impress me. Ever. So when I see women, when I interact with women, I see through them. I see into them. I don't see what they're presenting to me. I see right through them. I see right into their soul. I can see exactly what they're hiding. I can see what they really are. I can see what the problem really is. I can see where it's really coming from. I can see what they're not saying. And only those experiences could have given me that. Whatever planet you have in the 12th house, that's your anointing. Okay? You are anointed with that planet. And that anointing, it authorizes you to heal the archetypes of that energy. It authorizes you to utilize the powers of that energy in your destiny and your mission. That's what I know too. And this is why a lot of my content, it includes women. You know what I mean? Because I'm anointed for this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Beside the fact that, a lot of that is in the blood. My father, he was, like literally physically He was a pimp. He was a pimp. And so, anyway, about Pholus. Pholus is in Capricorn, in opposition to Cancer Jupiter. So the whole while that Jupiter's going through Cancer, it's going to be in opposition. Even if not direct opposition, it's in opposition. And that opposition it's giving us capacity with the inevitable deep transformations at Capricorn. Okay? So as we roll upon events out of our control, unanticipated events that leads to a deep transformation of the self, what accommodates that is the capacity of Jupiter at Cancer, which is handling the emotional load of those transformations. The emotional load, the emotional demand. It's also accommodating with a high capacity of nurturing. Okay? So, how does nurturing play with deep transformational changes at Capricorn? Okay, check this out. Capricorn rules the bones. As we age, like I'm 42, okay, our bones get weaker as we age. What helps to reverse that is heavy lifting. You know what I mean? It's heavy lifting. So I do heavy squatting, I do heavy bench, I do heavy lift, you know what I'm saying? I lift heavy at the gym. You know what I'm saying? I throw the steel up. You know what I'm saying? I stay strong, I stay young, by subjecting myself to that. And if you're going to do heavy lifting, okay, which causes deep transformation of the body, okay, keep consistent with me, right? You listening? Which causes deep transformation of the body, okay? That relates to Pholus Capricorn, all right? Deep transformation of the body and bones, okay? If you are handling heavy loads, you power lifted and all this other stuff, you throwing up weights. Don't you have to increase your nutritional input? You see? You have to consume nutrition at a higher rate, at a higher capacity. You need more calories, even if you're at a caloric deficit, okay, to keep that fat down. You still need calories from protein, okay, significantly to keep up with that. You have to increase the nutrition that you're consuming. Your calcium, your magnesium, you know what I mean, your K2, D3. You know what I'm saying? Potassium and all it, and all this other stuff, protein and, carbs, fats, you have to increase all that to keep up with the demand on your body. So Cancer, which represents the breast, it's where our body gets nurtured. Jupiter indicates an expansion of that. Okay, a high capacity of nurturing, a high capacity of nutritious consumption. You know what I mean? It's like instead of the baby drinking one bottle, the baby's drinking 2 or 3 bottles. But that's to compensate and keep up with Pholus transiting Capricorn. You see? Pholus transiting Capricorn. Obviously, at key points, because Jupiter's only in Cancer for over a year. When it gets in a Leo, it's going to support our outward expressions. Then it's going to start forming a trine, okay, which is favorable to, rather than opposing, it's favorable to, it's complementary to those transformations at Pholus. Okay, so it's going to evolve in what effect it's having. But right now, it is ushering in a greater capacity of nurturing for the soul, for the inner child, for the emotional body, so that we can keep up with the demands of personal transformation. This can look like changes in your family, experiences, relationship experiences and status, being well connected with things that makes you feel fulfilled emotionally. You know, for example, you may, it may be like an emotional therapy for you that you're taking care of, this cat that you found or something, or, you ended up moving your grandmother in and caring for her, and it just turned into the greatest blessing, of all that, like you could never imagine. Or you ended up having to go back home to care for, a loved one, and it just turned into the greatest blessing ever, things like that. But there's going to be an expansion of emotional inpouring that's going to enrich you as you are under the pressure of foliage to subject yourself and surrender yourself to deep transformational experiences. Is going to work hand in hand. Understand that. Okay, is what I'm saying. I gave a long ass story, which, hopefully, hopefully it was on target with, trying to explain that. You know what I mean? So, Cancer new moon, that it's a new beginning. So, this is a time where we want to be open minded and optimistic when it comes to family and relationships. Because this is especially where this comes in at. To know specifically, for yourself, you have to look at your natal birth chart where you have Cancer, and that particular house where you have Cancer, that will give you the context of what type of form this is going to take. Everybody has a unique situation. New moon is a new capacity. So what it means is that emotionally, you are in position to be present in new experiences. It means that you are in position to be receptive. You are in position to focus on new emotional connections and opportunities. Jupiter brings into it a spirit of enthusiasm for what's ahead. Because if Jupiter's not there, it's more like, okay, you're not looking to go beyond what you already have going on. You also may not feel like you have the room to go beyond what you already have going on. With Jupiter there, you are eager to include more experiences and more opportunities to realize yourself as a nurturing being, and to respond to others' ability to be nurturing as well. It's opening your mind to see family in every person, to see camaraderie in every person, to see community in every demographic. It's like, I'm a New Yorker, so one thing I noticed that's different when I came to the South is that people in the South are more hospitable and they treat each other more like family. You know what I mean? Where when you see people, when you see a neighbor, you greet them like family, and you treat them like family as if they're your own. That's that perception that's opening up. You're all inclusive. You're all inclusive. It's the big mama effect. You know what I'm saying? Cancer is the mama, but Jupiter is the big mama. You know what I mean? That's big mama effect. She got the big titties with, you know what I'm saying, with the cool 100s in a bra. She real loud. You know what I'm saying? She got them beady red eyes, a little bit of sweat trickling down her forehead. She don't dress real fancy, but she smell real good. She might have, had them ankles hanging out, you know what I'm saying, them flip flops, but that's Big Mama though. She get all the respect. You know what I'm saying? And whenever she come around, everybody feel loved. She's all inclusive. She don't discriminate. You know what I'm saying? And that's where we open our capacity to be all inclusive. We open up our capacity to be loving to everyone, to see everybody as family. Optimism as it relates to Cancer as well. When you come from an attitude of optimism, such as Jupiter, everything's a yes. Everything's a go. Everything's possible. The cup is half full all the time. So this is more like you being a person who brings morale to the situation. Strong morale, good morale to the situation. That's what Jupiter does. It keeps the morale high. The morale. Where you're going to keep the morale high? Well, what house do you have Cancer? That's the place in your life where you are going to be the person who keeps that morale very high. You keep everybody on a positive edge. You keep everybody looking optimistically at the situation. And what situation? And how we're relating to each other, how we're talking to each other, how we're figuring it out and sorting out our differences, how we argue, reason, and negotiate. You're making sure that it stays in a positive tone. You're making sure that nobody gets overwhelmed or discouraged. You're there to make sure the morale doesn't drop, that nobody's picking or bullying on anybody, nobody's being mistreated. You're making sure that everyone gets advocated for, everyone gets spoken up for. You're making sure that everybody feels comfortable and defended, that everybody feels comfortable to be themselves and not somebody else. You're making sure that whatever is vocalized, that it's honored, it's heard, it's not, put down or looked down upon, frown, discredited. That's Jupiter. It's to bring the jolly spirited enthusiasm into the situation that leads with the will of compassion. Compassion, optimism, and the element of creativity is more of the element of creativity when it comes to Cancer is more of there is a way that I can help you. Okay. This comes back to the number 6 vibration. Okay. Those who have life path number 6, heart, soul, urge number 6, you are the trustee of resources. That makes you the trustee of resources, the trustee of ideas. Where it's not that, when you watch when somebody's struggling, you're not going to watch them struggle. You're going to start coming up with solutions. You're going to start trying to figure things out. You're going to start trying to throw ideas out there on how you can move forward from the point that they're at, how you could turn a bad thing into a good thing. That's where that creativity kicks in Cancer. It's like the mother that finds solutions. It's like the mother who tries to figure out how to keep the children happy in the worst situations. You know what I mean? We could look forward to this. We really need this kind of energy to be there. You know what I mean? So 4 degrees, I'm going to go over that point separately. But what I also want to add to this is that Cancer, new moon, conjunct Jupiter. This means that Jupiter is going to be part of the entire phase. It's going to be a key, essential, primary expression of this entire 6-month phase. So for the next 6 months, there's an expansion of our Cancer circumstances, domestic circumstances, household circumstances, family and community circumstances, relationship circumstances. It's all going to be expanded and it's going to be changed for the good. For the good. It also is going to include leadership because of Jupiter. And what leadership looks like is being influential through compassion, being influential through care, being influential through the mother instinct, being influential through selflessness, carrying that number 6 vibration. The number 6 vibration, for example, when somebody has life path for heart, soul, urge number 6, well, when it's life path number 6, the person is learning the lessons of sacrifice. Okay? It's where they come into situations where if they don't give something, share something, or sacrifice something, they're going to have a hard time living with themselves if they don't do it. It's going to work against their conscience. They're going to want to be entitled to keep the last slice of bread, the shirt on their back, the last dollar that they have, but their conscience won't let them. And what they're learning is the power of sacrifice, the power of compassion and love, the power of selflessness is what they're learning. They're also learning to be the good steward of resources and the trustee of other people's feelings and vulnerabilities. Okay? When you have the heart, soul, urge number 6, this is already in you. And you struggle to learn how to say no. You struggle to learn how to have boundaries. All right? So already what this tells you that Jupiter is going to push us to the limits of our boundaries. All right? We learn to have boundaries, but what Jupiter is doing is just saying, hey, I know you learn your boundaries. I know you learn how to, say no, and you know how to cut somebody off if you need to. I get it. But what Jupiter is doing, he's saying, I'm going to give you the courage, the enthusiasm to take chances again, to take risk again, to be vulnerable with your emotions. Okay? So Jupiter supporting us to show vulnerability again with our emotions, to show leadership, through our intuition and our sensitivities. What this ends up looking like is being mentors, father figures, mother figures, okay? Being the conscious of the group, the one who has a conscience. While everybody's plotting on some dark Machiavellian ideas, you're bringing consciousness back into the situation. You're bringing the moral compass back to the situation, okay? So Jupiter has us to come from an optimistic and creative position with restoring the moral compass around us. See what I'm saying? The moral compass can't work without Jupiter because that's where the moral compass comes from. The philosophy of Jupiter, the 9th house. Okay, so the 9th house is where your morals are at. Okay, and the 2nd house is where it takes form as ethos, values. You see, ethos and values. But it comes from the 9th house, which is your philosophy. Your morals and your philosophy is one. Okay? Morals are also the philosophies that you inherited from your ancestors, the 4th house. Okay? That's morals. It includes the wisdom and philosophy that you inherited from your ancestors, and it also includes morals that you realize through the 9th house, your experiences and higher education. So what Jupiter does is it says, I need you to establish moral authority around you. I need you to show leadership through moral initiation wherever you're at. For you, you have to look at your Cancer placement. Okay, everybody has a Cancer placement. What house is that in? Okay, that's the house where Jupiter is going to insist that you use the philosophy that you extracted from Chiron, from the Mars retrograde in Cancer, okay, from the North and South Node transits, from your past life, from all of the full moon culminations. You have to use your wisdom to realize a new moral standard, moral objectives, moral principles and values that you communicate to others and demonstrate to others. That's Jupiter, bringing the authority of morality. You see? Now, why is this important? Remember, we're at the phase of freedom. If we are at the phase of freedom, we have moral responsibility with the freedom. Remember how that goes together. Come on. All my videos are going to be consistent. All right? I hope you watch them all the way through. So you're not lost in the sauce, because me saying more responsibility, it should ring ding, ding, ding. Oh, I heard him saying that. Yeah, I said it and I emphasized it. Okay? So Jupiter is where we are taking action with the moral responsibility, all right, which validates our freedom. It's part of our expression of freedom. Okay? Jupiter is with the new moon phase. The new moon Cancer is emotional freedom. That's what that is, because it's a new capacity of emotional experiences that you are about to embark upon. That is emotional freedom. You feel emotionally available to engage again, to be receiving again, and to be giving again from an emotional standpoint. But with that emotional freedom, you must have responsibility. Responsibility to what? To morale, to the moral compass. Cancer is about morals. Libra is about ethics. See how that works? There's a difference. Cancer is about morals. Libra is about ethics. You see? Ethics is ethereal. Morals is emotional. Because morals considers the effect that we have on the inner child of others. Ethics has to do with the effect that we have on the self-awareness of others, which includes their sense of justice, dignity, and freedom. Understand? Okay? So it's coming from a different place. Jupiter is dealing more so with our morals. So at the house that you have Cancer, you are going to be the person who shows leadership when it comes to moral integrity. Hey man, that's not right. Yo, why would you laugh at that person when they, somebody come, for example, see, I'm not going to blow my blessings. So I'm going to say it in this way, because I feel like you blow your blessings when you tell the good things that you do. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes. But there was a guy on the job site, and he came up to the job site, just last week. And, he was like, hey, yo, brother, man, he was like, I ain't trying to bother you or nothing like that, but yo, my car is on the side of the road. I think the fuel pump is out, man. I'm just $15 short, from getting a tow truck. So, I didn't have cash on me, I'm like, okay, you got Cash App? I could send him, Cash App, whatever. No, I don't got Cash App. All the other options, you don't got that. There was an ATM up the street, but, I wasn't really trying to lead it, the job site to really go do that. But anyway, I was telling him, I was like, yo, okay, so did you try to tap on a fuel pump? You try to disconnect the, the battery, maybe it'll re-engage. Yeah, I tried this, I tried that. So, I went to the ATM, get some cash out, whatever. And, we sat down, we chilled, we talked, crack it up a little bit, slap five. And, he was on his way. But it's little things like that shows. That's where we have a chance to show leadership in our morals. That may not be a perfect example of morals, but do unto others. It is what I was practicing there, because the way I thought about, okay, this could be me, and I need help. That could be my brother. What if one day my brother out there, he need help, and somebody like, nah, get out of here. No, I will hope that somebody will have compassion. And want to help them out. I will hope somebody will have compassion and want to help me out when I'm not in position to help myself. That goes back to Cancer too, okay? Cancer is the energy of one person is able to help themselves and one person is not. That's the helpless child. That's the archetype of the relationship between mother and child, okay? That's what makes the mother the ultimate symbol of compassion. She's the ultimate symbol of compassion. Okay, because a child is defenseless. A child cannot protect itself, it can't speak for itself, it can't feed itself. But the mother's compassion and intuition homes in on all of that, and delivers everything that the child could need, even without being able to communicate for itself what it needs. Okay, that's who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to understand this is a human need. Somebody's in need right now, and they're coming to me trusting me that I will have enough compassion, that I will have enough empathy, sympathy, that I will have enough care to respond to their need. That is, with what we're in capacity to do, what we're in position to do. You know what I'm saying? And so this is where we have to learn to bring the expansive abundance of Jupiter into others' life through Cancer, which is through our compassion. We bring abundance into a person's life. We bring mercy and blessings and benevolence into a person's life. We are acting on behalf of Jupiter because of our moral conviction that we have to do good, to do right. You know what I'm saying? To treat others as we want to be treated. You know what I mean? To be brotherly and sisterly to each other. These are the highest practices of all. Okay, I don't care what type of sophisticated consciousness and spirituality you into. The highest practice of spirituality, okay, besides parenthood, all right, parenthood in marriage, is that you treat your neighbor like you treat yourself. There's no greater demonstration of your moral understanding and conviction. There's no greater understanding of your freedom than that. You know what I'm saying? Is that you see somebody as yourself. Is somebody suffering, they need help? If you're in position to help them, that you actually do. I'm not saying get taken advantage of, be a sucker, get played, you know what I'm saying? Let somebody manipulate. No, it ain't about that. You know what I'm saying? Because we know how to have boundaries with things. You help somebody out, and every time you turn around, they come out, yo, man, hey, man, you got $20? Yeah, dog, you got 20. Nigga, you just asked me for $20 2 days ago. You know what I'm saying? I could teach you how to fish. You know what I mean? But I ain't going to be giving you a fish every fucking day. I could teach you how to fish. I can help you to get your own fishing pole. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to fucking give you a fish every day. So don't misunderstand me for saying, be a sucker out here. You know what I mean? But we do have to intentionally realize that we're being expected to reintroduce moral conviction into society, into the households, into our relationships in the home. We have to become mother and father to each other, in a sense. You know what I mean? Let me say it the right way. We have to become motherly and fatherly trustees to one another. You know what I'm saying? Where I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. That's what Cancer Jupiter is. You know what I mean? I am my brother's and sister's keeper. I got my brother's back. I got my sister's back. And this is not about, oh, I'm only look out for black people. Oh, I'm only look out for white people. Oh, I'm only looking out for Hispanics. I'm only looking out for. No, is you fucking crazy? You know what I mean? If you dare make this only about, okay, if anybody dares to make this about, oh, I'm only gonna help out people that look like me, you're missing the whole fucking point. Because a human is a fucking human, man. You know what I mean? We are missing a whole fucking point. If you only have compassion for somebody that looks like you, they got the same skin color or flag as you, you're missing the whole point. It don't fucking matter. You know what I mean? It's a humanity thing. This is a humanity thing, that we see humanity as brother and sister. You know what I'm saying? It's about humanity. We're reintroducing moral conviction. We're bringing back compassion and care, empathy, sympathy. We're finding excuses for each other in a sense. We're covering our brother and sister's faults. You know what I mean? We have to evolve through this door. And that's how we nurture the new body. We nurture the new body with acts of compassion. We nurture the new body with acts of service, selflessness, with acts of trust, acts of generosity. You know, that's what we leading with now. So anyway, you think about the big titties. You know what I'm saying? Big, you know what I'm saying? Double fucking D's and shit. You know what I mean? Fucking, yeah. You think about big ass fucking titties. You know what I mean? That's what you want. Think of yourself as a big fucking titty. All right? You bringing that big ass titty to the world. That's what you do. You walk around with that big ass titty. Hey, you need it? You need it? Hey, you need it? You need it? You good? Yo, you good? I got you. You good? You bring the titty to everybody. You know what I'm saying? You walk everybody. You good? You need it? You good? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what we on. You know what I'm saying? Bring the big titties to everybody. Hurry up. That's what we doing. Cancer Jupiter, you heard? This transit is also very important to focus on because what it does is it gives pushback in an evolutionary way against the Machiavellian mind state that we all fell subject to, okay, as we were going through the program of Rothschild Rockefeller, okay, which is to turn all of us into these corporate models, these corporate numbers, these cookie cutter, images in society that lives under a socially engineered or socially manufactured mind state, appetite, perception, okay, vision of the self. We are living in the ideal at that time of the corporate model, the corporate interests. A lot of that still resonates. A lot of that is still there. It doesn't mean that it's all gone. But what we do have is Pholus and Capricorn that is shaking that out of us. Pholus is in Capricorn, which is, it's taking unexpected events and giving us deep transformations that has us to undo and untie the attachments that we have to that style of thinking, that way of thinking. And this includes ruthlessness, selfishness. It includes being overly ambitious, controlling, dominating, cold-hearted, insensitive. Okay? It's to where we used to aspire out of admiration for those who exemplified the Machiavellian spirit in the best ways, such as mobsters, gangsters, okay, stone cold killers we like to, watch on the movies. And, there was a time where, gangster rap used to glorify and still does in many ways the Machiavellian spirit, okay? Even Tupac Shakur himself, when he recovered, from getting shot, he came back with a totally different attitude, named himself Machiavelli. There's a reason for that. You know what I mean? Machiavelli wrote a letter to the prince in his time showing him the Shadow 8. And the Shadow 8 is the dark side of Capricorn, the devil card, which is a ruthless route to power, authority, control, domination, and wealth. Okay? And you see that God has sent his angels out to arrest every person who is walking around with this spirit, mercilessly oppressing and suppressing people of the world. Look at Diddy. Okay? Look at all of these filthy, rich, powerful people who work darkness, evils, insensitivities, inhumane behaviors, ruthlessness to get to the top, to have every drop of money, every dime, every penny. And they would do it. They will murder to do it. They will rob, steal, and kill to do it, to accomplish it. And as a people, we start to normalize these behaviors. We start to accept these behaviors because we romanticize it so much. We like the movies, you know what I'm saying? Watching, Goodfellas and Godfather, Scarface, and all this other stuff. Listening to rap music where, they talking about, I'm a kill a nigga, shoot a nigga, whatever. I'm selling drugs and yada, yada, yada. We romanticize it so much to where we normalize it. And we start to root for these personalities. We start to okay it. We turn the other way when we behave these ways. We turn a blind eye to it. We start to condone these things that goes directly against cancer. Okay? It goes against cancer. It goes against the moon. It is ruthlessness. It is to treat other people as if they are not human, as if they don't have feelings, as if they don't have emotions. Okay, it is to undermine the divine right of every person. Okay, this is like you are so filled with ambition to where you throw all your morals away. You betray all your morals and values. Get to the bag by any means, even if you sell crack cocaine in your neighborhood and you see what it does to the kids. You see what it does to mothers. You see what it does to fathers, and you still get a crack rock to these people to get rich. And then you go on a rap song and you brag about how much crack you sold. But nobody's supposed to pay attention to how many lives that you're helping to destroy. Okay, how much gunfire and violence has to take place while you out there selling drugs? The ruthlessness when it comes to money. Okay, the ruthlessness of that you don't love this guy or you don't like this guy, but he's a successful, like for example, Travis Hunter. Okay, the nigga's slow. Okay, but people like Travis Hunter, for example. That you don't love this guy. You don't really want to be with this guy, but he's rich. So you're going to hang along and you're going to play the game, and then you're going to divorce him or get pregnant or whatever else, drag his ass in court, and now you got to come up and you go on to the next person. That's ruthless. It's heartless. It's cold. You know what I'm saying? You do something like to climb the corporate ladder. You steal, you lie on people. Okay, you cheat, you backbite, you gossip, you set people up, you sabotage people in the office. You know what I'm saying? To get ahead, for example, they just busted in Florida. There was a couple of DMV workers who was selling CDL license to illegal immigrants. Okay. And these trucks carry 80,000 pounds. You know what I'm saying? You want money so bad to where you're willing to endanger the public. You're endangering the whole entire society so you could get some money. You know what I'm saying? The Machiavellian Capricorn Shadow 8, the shadow of Saturn, the shadow of Capricorn, the devil card. This is the side of ourselves where we desensitize ourselves in order to obtain the objective of our ambitions. We desensitize ourselves, okay? Look what feminism did in this name, okay? Women have desensitized themselves who subscribe to feminism when it comes to what they know their children really need of them. They need a father. They need her to either be at home or be emotionally available. So why would why would we be so insensitive to, create a child in circumstances where they cannot have a father and a mother? Because to go without either one is a crisis. To go without either one is destructive to the child, or in order for you to test your luck, okay, with what you see as the grass is greener on the other side. You don't want to be tied down to this marriage. You got your degree now. So now you're better than your husband. It's time to leave. Okay, you want the single life culture to turn up because you see your homegirls is out, they having a ball, they on vacations, they got a wine glass in the picture, they living it up, they dating this guy and this cute guy and they dating that cute guy. So you destroy a marriage, you destroy a relationship because of what you think is greener on the other side. It's ruthlessness. I want to have this career, this title, this status. So I'm going to sell my femininity to get it. I'm going to send the role that I know God ordained for me in life to obtain it. I'm going to sell my children's emotional security and happiness and peace so that I can have happiness. Fuck my kids' happiness. I want my happiness. How many times do you hear it? Oh, I wasn't happy, that's why I left the marriage. Bitch, what happiness got to do with your fucking marriage? It's a responsibility. Happiness comes and happiness goes. Figure it out. You see, it's addressing where we became ruthless, desensitized, where we threw away our morals. Okay? I was a bouncer, while I'm telling stories, I was a bouncer at strip clubs before. And I seen, how a lot, there was a lot of innocent, girls who was only like, 19, 18, 21, You could tell they ain't never jumped off the porch. They eyes was pure, like white as milk. They ain't lost no sleep. No bags on their eye. No, you could tell all they do is sleep all day. They fully charged. You could tell when a girl is fully charged. She just sleep all day. She looks like her battery is fully charged. And they come in there wide-eyed and all this other stuff. And for money or for access to the drug dealers and all this other stuff, they desensitize themselves and go against their intuition. They go against their instincts. They go against their nature. They go against the small, still voice of God inside they self to get on that pole. And then on the other side, you coked up, you turned out. You look like you ain't slept in fucking weeks. Your immune system is shot. You don't even look the same. You look like a streetwalker now. You look at situations like Tiffany Henyard, okay, of Dalton, Illinois. That goes with this consciousness, okay? You look at Fannie Willis, okay, and the shit and the stunts that she tried to pull while she fucking married niggas and all this other shit, lying her fucking teeth off in the court. It's bitches like that with this kind of consciousness. You got the Letitia James, You up here trying to blast Trump on what the fuck he doing, but you doing it. You come to find out you did exactly what you said he was doing. You fucking around lying about property. Allegedly. So it's characters like that. It's characters like that. How many men went down with the Me Too? Some of the allegations may have been true, some of it may have not. I don't know. Okay. But you got Mayor Mayor Adams, who allegedly got called out for that. You got Axl Rose, you got Diddy, obviously, and there was R. Kelly's and so much dirt came out and corruption concerning money, power, fame, status, politics, all that go with Capricorn. And Capricorn is a polarity of Cancer. It's an opposition to Cancer. Okay? So what this is you get into the Machiavellian state when you go to the extreme in Cancer while starving yourself of the connection. You go to the extreme in Capricorn while starving yourself off from the connection and realization in Cancer. You see what I'm saying? That's what that is. And you have to deliberately turn that off. You know what I'm saying? Because we are in the image and likeness of God. So when you subject yourself to these type of lifestyle, your consciousness, it tells you right from wrong. It tells you good from bad. You know when you're doing wrong. But the more you ignore it, the less it speaks to you. And sooner or later, you become a person who doesn't have a conscience. You become a person who don't feel bad about killing somebody. You don't feel bad about stealing. You don't feel bad about raping and lying and killing and, abusing people. You don't feel nothing. You become desensitized. So Pholus going through Capricorn is shaking us up where we became desensitized, where we went too far into ambition. It's where we got too tangled up and absorbed in ambitions to where it numbed us to what we are to realize and what we are to feel at that Cancer. Okay, it's restoring the feeling back to our emotional body, the sensitivity that we're supposed to have there. We got desensitized by becoming so ambitious here in this country, especially in America. You know what I'm saying? This is global, of course, this energy, but I know that from the experience here in America, it's like you really got to get it. Everything here is about money. Everything's about money. Okay. And out of that fear and desperation, we abandon our moral obligation. We look at our morals and our values as something that's in our way, in the way of opportunity. Okay. It's like, because I have these morals, because I have these values, it's blocking me, it's stopping me from getting ahead. It's stopping me from advancing. It's stopping me from being out front. It's not letting me take up on the opportunities that's there. Because in order for me to get ahead and be successful, I got to do crime. I got to do wrong. I got to do evil. I got to break the law. I got to cheat people, rob and steal and oppress and all this. This is a psychology we start tapping into, and we end up losing our moral conviction, our moral compass. We lose compassion. We lose sensitivity. We lose our humanity. Jupiter at Cancer is an obvious restoration of that. It's bringing an abundance of sensitizing us, an abundance of restoration to our sensitivity in the emotional body, to where we can feel the humanity in ourselves and in others and sympathize with it too. You see what I'm saying? The Machiavellian mind state of that number 8 Capricorn, that shadow 8, Capricorn shadow 8, Saturn, that shadow at the 10th house. Remember, what did feminism do to women? Okay? Feminism told women that God didn't design you for the 4th house. He designed you for the 10th house. So what did women do? They started competing with men who were designed for the 10th house. They became jealous and envious of men who were designed for the 10th house. And they became devoted to the 10th house. They became ambitious about the 10th house. Everything in their life, everything in their entire being became about the 10th house. But what happens when women are the archetype of the 4th house? They are the archetype of Cancer. They are the living embodiment of Cancer. They are the walking symbol of Cancer. They are the vanguards of everything that Cancer is supposed to mean. So they go against their entire being in pursuit of their ambitions. They contradict their entire destiny in pursuit of these ambitions at the 10th house. They put on those high heels and they climb like an ibex to the top of every skyscraper. You're going to feel my womanly wrath. I am powerful. Oh, she's so fearless. Oh, she's fierce. I'm fierce. They want to see themselves as a 10th house symbol. They want to see themselves as a 10th house mascot. They want to see themselves as a 10th house archetype, even though God did not design them to be that. They insist on it anyway, going against their own nature. And in doing so, they betray their own natural faculties. They have to turn off where their superpowers are at. Their superpowers is their intuition, their sensitivity, their compassion, their understanding, their empathy, their ability to home in on clairvoyantly and intuitively on the feelings of others through their self, to embody and feel what another person is feeling in an instant, to be able to home in and meet a person exactly where they're at, to be the walking oracle, the moon that travels in the darkness in the night of every person. But all women don't know anything about that. Once they are touched with feminism, they abandon all of it. They betray all of it in order to have that status at the 10th house. The feminist is obsessed with career. They are obsessed with career status. That's the obsession. And when you become obsessed with career status, you become Machiavellian. And Machiavellian is to fall into the shadow of Saturn, the shadow of Capricorn, the shadow of the 10th house. And that shadow is lacking the illumination and the balance, the harmonization of Cancer itself. So when you see Jupiter as this deep gravitational pull that it has into Cancer, it's pulling us back into balance, saying, where is your humanity? Where is your compassion? Where is your sympathy, empathy? Expand and open up your intuition, your understanding, your sensitivity. Your brother is you. Your sister is you. You are not a separate being. You are one. And what hurts them hurts you. What defiles them defiles you. And when it becomes that way, we enjoin on each other what is good and we forbid each other what is bad, because we see ourselves as one. You understand? This is where it starts to change. This is where we start to change the situation. We get active about it. Okay? Remember that all these transits is rescuing women from feminism. It's an exile from feminism. It's working directly against what feminism did. It's working against what liberalism did. Liberalism was here to manufacture the consent and perception of the people towards democracy. And democracy is to beguile the people into thinking that their enslavement is freedom when it is not. You see, and it goes directly against the moral compass. Any democratic leadership practice satanic will in the full open, right in front of your face, boldly, without even trying to hide it. Look at Obama's era. Satan's world unleashed by the power of black women politically during the Obama era. Okay, every sin, iniquity, and wickedness that you can imagine just came out the closet. And it went up, 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 well, down, 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 down since that time. And it was women who brought it out. Okay, so we're learning to get back to connection with our moral compass, our humanity, the divine mother within, and nurturing the inner child, honoring the inner child in every step of the way, never betraying our values and morals again, never selling our soul, because that's how you sell your soul. When you sell your morals, you're already selling your soul. You're compromising your soul. You will do anything for $1. You don't care how anybody treats you, and you don't care how you treat anybody when you think that everything is about the bottom line of the dollar, when you think it's all about status, when it's all about power and politics. You don't care who you hurt, who you murder, who you abuse, who you injure, who you mistreat. You don't care when you become that ruthless. You know what I'm saying? Where you think everything is about materialism, consumption, and money. That goes with that Machiavellian Capricorn Pluto transit type energy. Everything becomes about materialism, status, and money. You look at, for example, the music in the past decade, you know what I'm saying, the culture and all this other stuff. There was a push, a heavy, heavy, consistent push about messaging of materialism. You know, all these rappers and stuff, really what they are is they're commercials for the filthy rich. They're commercials for corporations. You know, you got people like Future and other rappers, and I love the sound of their music. You know what I'm saying? I can't even lie. I love the sound of their music, but the messages in the music are terrible. But it sounds good. You know what I'm saying? That shit be sounding fly. But the wording, the words that they say, the things that they say, it's demonic. It's demonic. Future telling you to take all these drugs. You know what I'm saying? And they name all these European fashions. They name all these expensive Rolex watches and expensive foreign cars. If you really pay attention to it, it's just a fancy commercial. That's all it is. They're brainwashing you to have the ambitious appetite for these things. And the music includes shaming you for not having it, abasing you for not having it. You are not included in the status of those who are relevant, those who are competitive, those who are successful, those who are, you know what I'm saying, who are on and popping or whatever else, if you don't have these things. And we subscribe to it and we believed it. So Folis has to go through Capricorn to help us to undo this psychology, this programming. You know what I mean? It's where we walking around thinking like Machiavelli. If you look at the 48 laws of power, people will say, oh, that's deep, man. Yeah, man, you got to study that. No, that's how you be a devil. That's how you step into the shadow of Capricorn. That's how you manifest the fucking devil card in the shadow. That's how you get away from your moral compass. That's how you betray your Cancer energy. You know, let's not all pretend like we don't need the light and the dark. Okay, I get that. I'm all for that. We need the light and we need the dark. There's a time and place for everything. But what I'm emphasizing is books, for example, like the 48 Laws of Power, you know what I'm saying, which emphasizes Machiavellian wisdom. It is a ruthless manual that teaches you how to betray and turn off your connection to Cancer energy. Because Cancer is a divine law that won't let Capricorn go too far. You see, it's the axis of the 4th and 10th house. The 4th house is the dominion of the mother. The 10th house is the dominion of the father. Okay? And so when the mother goes too far, the father is, you know, the father is the accountability that manifests. When the mother goes too far, when the father goes too far, the mother is the accountability that manifests. You see what I'm saying? So when the father is going into the Capricorn, that Capricorn energy, her sensitivity and rootedness to Capricorn consciousness, it raises question to the Capricorn figure, saying, okay, what about your morals? What about your values? What about people's feelings? What about how that person felt? What about what that person was going through? You see what I'm saying? And so that Capricorn, the Cancer energy of the divine mother, it holds Capricorn divine father accountable. Okay. And then on the opposite end, when the Capricorn, when the Cancer energy is going too far into the Cancer, forgetting the Capricorn, like for example, the divine mother may want to coddle the children. Okay. Or whenever he falls off a bicycle, oh, baby, you okay? You know what I'm saying? Or letting them sleep in all the time. Okay. They instead of them getting up early in the morning, you letting the kids sleep in. They don't have responsibilities around the house. You know what I'm saying? They not washing no dishes. They not mopping no floors, taking out the trash. You know what I mean? They don't got nothing, you know, no type of discipline in their daily life. So the divine father of the Capricorn 10th house, he brings the energy of the 10th house as accountability to the Capricorn 4th house, the divine mother. And what that looks like is the father saying, hold up, why are you letting these kids sleep in like that? Okay, but we need to raise them to have some type of conviction to get up early in the morning and be productive. They shouldn't be sleeping in because they're going to grow into that habit. You know, or if the mother's always going in there waking them up for school, right? But they can't wake themselves up. Okay, do they have the ability to wake themselves up? Why are you going in there waking them up early in the morning? You know, how are they going to learn how to, you know, be responsible, accountable for themselves? Okay, Why are they not waking themselves up early in the morning? Why are you going in there waking them up in the morning? You see what I'm saying? So the foresight goes with the 10th house. Insight goes with the 4th house. That's how it works. So at the 10th house, that foresight is missing insight. Okay? At the 4th house, it's missing foresight. At the 10th house, it's missing insight. You see how that axis works, okay? So when you get so absorbed into the foresight of the Capricorn ambitions, you miss the insight into the moral principle, the moral responsibility that you're using your ambitious freedom with, okay? And when you dive so far into the 4th house, into those insights of feelings, emotions, comfort, sensitivity, things like that, you're missing the foresight of preparation for hardship, preparation for challenges, preparation for success, preparation for discipline, showing up in the world, accountability. You see what I'm saying? So they both hold each other accountable. You understand? So we're at a point where Jupiter is bringing a heavy restoration. It's pulling, in other words, we went so far into that Capricorn energy where we became so ambitious, desensitized, greedy, lustful, having no feelings, fuck that nigga's feelings. And, we had to learn how to be these corporate, everybody was lusting over becoming powerful corporate executives. Oh, I'm a CEO of this. I'm a project manager. These titles. But in wielding these titles, everybody was becoming stoic, hardcore, you know what I'm saying? Desensitized, cold, walking around like some fucking, Roman Stoics, taking pictures with the business suits and, oh, I'm fierce, I'm ambitious, I'm an entrepreneur. I own businesses, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm getting to the bag. Well, I'm a boss bitch. You know what I'm saying? And all this other stupid ass shit. And so you end up getting away from the other divine half of yourself. It has to be in balance. Capricorn, the divine father, is not superior to Cancer, the divine mother. That's where you're wrong at. You know what I'm saying? And feminism brainwashes females into thinking that Cancer is inferior to Capricorn, that the 4th house is inferior to the 10th house. Okay? But this is females' lack of understanding of themselves. They look at womanhood, the 4th house, motherhood, wifehood, the domestic application, the domestic service. They look down on it as it's lesser, as it's inferior. But oh, what a misunderstanding of themselves that is. That is a grave misunderstanding of themselves. It is women who underestimate themselves. It is women who underestimated their roles. It's women who underestimated their office. It's women who underestimated their destiny and their nature. It's women who underestimated and overlooked it and turned their noses up at it, looking jealous and envious at a man's destiny at the 10th house. They were lusting for that. They were jealous of it. And they took the social program and the engineering that went forth that put them in a spell to be so ambitious and cold, to take off what their soul was embodied with, which is the insightful, intuitive, compassionate, moral compass that made them the divine power that they are. They're the ones who decided to denounce the moon and become Saturn. They want power and authority and control, and I want somebody to fear me. I want to be fierce, and I'm not going to smile or anything. I'm just going to walk in with this bitch face and just tell everybody, hey, you're going to do this, and I'm powerful, and I'm in this position. I got a PhD, and it still ain't nobody scared of you. Ain't nobody scared of you. This is what females is not understanding. All that fucking noise, all them degrees, ain't nobody fucking scared of you. They're intimidated by the system that's enabling you as a useful idiot that's right behind you, but it's not you. It's like a little nigga coming up to me, kicking me on the shins, And he got his big brother right behind him with a fucking gun. Yeah. So I'm gonna let the little nigga kick me in the shins because I don't want to get shot. That's the delusion that American females are under. Nobody's scared of them. They are not fierce. They're not intimidating. They're not scary. They're not bosses. They're not alphas. Ain't none of that shit fucking true. You get the weakest nigga. He's stronger than the strongest bitch. You look at Clarissa Shields, right? She's a great boxer as a woman, right? A nigga just get off the couch eating fucking potatoes and ham sandwiches will lay her ass clean the fuck out and ain't never been in the gym a day in his fucking life because he's a man. This is what females have misunderstood under the indoctrination of feminism. There's nothing intimidating about females. If you didn't have the law, the courts, the system behind you, you would shiver in a corner in this society. You would fucking shiver in a corner in this society. Because anybody can take your food because too many of y'all are single. You're walking around single. And it's only because you could call the police. It's only because you could call the police that you get to walk around with your ponytail swinging and your little ass dog talking shit, acting like you're fierce, but you're not. If it wasn't for the fact that society has been conditioned to fear going to jail and losing everything that they work for, catching a case, felony, and all this other stuff, bitches would be shook around here. Understand that. And don't think that it still can't come to that. Don't think that it can't come to that. We got a glimpse of that during the fucking the COVID time. You know what I mean? You in the grocery store trying to reach for some paper towels. What you gonna do with a nigga with size 15 shoes reach over your ass and look at you like, bitch, what? It's my towels. You know what I'm saying? You know, bitches got delusional. Like really got delusional. You know what I mean? And so this axis is really being emphasized and balanced back out, and it takes a massive force like Jupiter to make up for all that time that we put in and invested in through feminism, liberalism, and corporate greed. Okay, that possessed all of us. It possessed all of us, and this is a powerful restoration of our emotional bodies and compassion. And we're about to see how powerful compassion is, how powerful love, sensitivity, intuition, care, advocacy. We're about to see how powerful we can become when we use this in our favor collectively, when we hold hands and wield that power around. You know what I'm saying? Because if we all hold hands under the authority of moral conviction, under the authority of what is right and what is good, under the authority of advocating for each other, and under the authority of compassion and doing the right thing, we are a force to be reckoned with. You know what I'm saying? Because these are things that roots to the inner soul, the inner being, the gut. You know what I'm saying? It roots to the gut of what we ought to do. You know, we're undoing our betrayal of our wisdom. We're undoing the betrayal to our intuition and our moral compass. You know what I mean? So, you know, as you see in this chart, you know, appearance versus reality. A prince should appear virtuous, but be prepared to act otherwise when circumstances demand it. You know what I mean? Machiavelli. The ends justifies the means. This phrase often attributed to Machiavelli, though not explicitly stated in The Prince, summarizes his views that the success of the state justifies the use of any necessary means, including those that might be considered immoral. You hear that? Immoral, okay? You see the key word, immoral. Capricorn extreme, shadow, okay? Because Cancer is what? Moral, okay? And we're in the phase of what? Freedom. And if we're in the phase of freedom, what do we have a responsibility to? The moral obligation, okay? So this tells you to do the opposite of that, to betray that. That's not freedom. That's entrapment of the soul with the illusion of freedom. Okay, pragmatism in real politics. Machiavelli believed that the primary goal of a ruler should be the preservation and expansion of the state, regardless of traditional moral considerations. You know what I mean? Stepping on other niggas, dropping bombs and shit because somebody who can't fight their own battles wants you to come, fight their battles for them while they stirring up dirt. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Recently on the headlines, you heard? The importance of fear while acknowledging that being both loved and feared is ideal. Machiavelli argues that a prince should prioritize being feared. You see that? As love is fickle and fear is more reliable tool for maintaining control. See, control, this little weasel, this little fucker right here, okay, he started this mind state where, like you in prison or something. You know what I'm saying? I get that mentality. I do. But that's the cowardice in us. And I'll tell you how, okay? When I used to get bullied in school, you know what I mean? I got bullied when I was in the 8th grade or something like that. I started getting bullied. And one day I turned the switch where I said, yo, I will never get bullied again. I'm gonna start bullying these niggas. The next nigga step to me, you know what I'm saying? I'm going ruthless on these niggas. You know what I'm saying? I'm a spaz out. I'm just go donkey crazy on these niggas. And I did it. You know what I'm saying? And I start beating bullies up. I started ruling the cafeteria, nigga. You know what I'm saying? I got carried away with it because I seen that bullies are just a bluff. I seen that people who want other people to fear them are scared. I see that people who are so eager for control, they feel like they have no control inside themselves. I started to smell all that stuff on other people. You know what I'm saying? And I started walking around, intimidating them, pushing back on them, beating them up. You know what I'm saying? Until I finally got kicked out of school. It was about a year later. I had way too many fights and I got kicked out of school. All around the neighborhood, I was running with a crew. You know what I'm saying? Shootouts, fights, all that other stuff. I ended up in a, optional school program with pregnant girls and drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? And, I seen early how when you walk around wanting people to fear you and you feel like you have to control everything and everyone, you're really a scared person. You're a coward. Is what you are. Because you can't release control. You can't be vulnerable enough to trust other people's judgment, behavior, or instincts. You know what I'm saying? There's so much that's behind that. When you look at a picture of Machiavelli, look at this little fucker, man. This little fucking weasel. Niggas taking advice from this little fucking weasel. The shit he says, it works. It gets you the illusion of power. It gets you the illusion of success. Okay? But you're surrounded by people who are afraid of you now. You're surrounded by people who want you gone, who want you out of there. You're surrounded by people who didn't champion you in. Okay? You're always looking over your shoulder. Which one of them is getting ready to take you out? Which one is going to shoot you when you turn your back? Which one going to set you up? That's what you manifest as a result of that. And what is that? Entrapment. That's not freedom. Imprisonment. That's not freedom. All you did was created another prison for yourself. A prison of fear and instinctual overload. Because now you have to look all around you all the time because you're so ruthless. You dominated the weak. Now you're surrounded by nothing but lions and wolves. Now what? You know what I mean? This is where misogyny, this is where toxic masculinity, you know what I'm saying? This is where unevolved men tend to get lost at too. You know what I'm saying? And I'm here to testify that, I was one of them. I indulged in this energy. You know what I'm saying? I practiced this energy. I led with this energy before. And I see that it was all out of fear. At the bottom line, it really was out of fear. You know what I'm saying? So, virtue as of now, the opposite of fear, you look at cancer, okay? While we talking about this, the polarization of that, cancer, that is to be receptive and embracing of vulnerability. That is to create a safe space, cancer. You see, so as you see, everything that Machiavelli emphasized, it goes against cancer. Okay? So Jupiter at Cancer is restoring what Machiavellian mentality, what Machiavellian strategy has exploited. You know what I mean? So as I'm reading it, you can hear it. Everything on this chart is shadow 8. It's shadow Capricorn. It's shadow Saturn. It's shadow 10th house. It's the shadow of the devil card. You know what I mean? Keep that in mind. Now, virtue in Machiavellian terms refers to a ruler's ability to adapt to circumstances, seize opportunities, and maintain power. You heard? This may involve actions considered morally questionable by traditional standards. You see that? Once again, moral and tradition. Okay? Going against moral and traditional values. You see? What are we doing? We're restoring our commitment to moral and traditional values. It's a restoration. See what I'm saying? This Capricorn Machiavellian mind state goes hand in hand with liberalism and feminism because all of it ultimately serves corporation and capitalism. Ultimately, the Rothschild Rockefeller theory. You know what I'm saying? The role of deception and force. Machiavelli suggests that a prince should be prepared to use deception, cunning, and even violence when necessary to achieve their goals and protect their state. Need I say more? Okay? Pholus is making sure that, see, Pholus is shaking a tree to make sure that all of these dark fruits fall away from us. It's turning us upside down at Capricorn to empty our pockets of these dark principles. You know what I'm saying? So we could get a deep transformation and convert ourselves over to the Cancer power, okay, that we need. It's the awakening of the Divine Mother to hold the Divine Father accountable, in a sense. You know what I mean? Okay? Maintaining a strong military. A prince should always maintain a strong and loyal army, as reliance on mercenaries or allies can be dangerous. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got no trust around you. You always on edge. Avoiding hatred. While ruthlessness is sometimes necessary, Machiavelli stresses that the prince should avoid being legitimately hated by the subjects, as this can lead to instability and rebellion. Controlling fortune. Machiavelli acknowledges the role of luck in a ruler's success, but he also emphasizes the importance of a prince actively working to limit the impact of fortuna through careful planning and strategic action. You heard? So these are just a few things. There's a book that I read. I gave the book to my goddaughter, and I also, got both of my sons to read the book as well. But it's called Machiavelli's Message to the Prince, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what it was called. Machiavelli's Message to the Prince. Really good book. Insightful. It's about all of that. You know what I mean? But I think I made this point. If you got questions below, please ask. I'm trying to paint the whole picture. You understand? Let's think about this and compare it, okay, to all that we went through. What did you go through during the Capricorn Pluto phase? Okay, the Capricorn Pluto phase. This is where you were operating through Machiavellian principles. Every last one of us. You know what I mean? Don't front. Try to act like it wasn't you. Every last one of us was doing it, nigga. You know what I'm saying? And we betrayed that Cancer. We went against that Cancer. You know what I'm saying? And now, we playing catch up. The Divine Mother is holding Divine Father accountable. That's the Divine Mother looking at the Divine Father like, yo, you being a little ruthless. You just threw away your morals. You don't even care anymore. Look at you. I don't even recognize you. You're being evil. And you know what I'm saying? She's holding them accountable within us. You know what I mean? Okay, so Cancer new moon, Jupiter, conjunct Jupiter, between 3 and 4 degrees. This Sabian symbol is a cat arguing with a mouse. All right? The point here is releasing self-justification. We must not lose opportunity through failure to make a resolute and self-serving claim upon the world, making our selfish claim without apology. Understand, the selfish aspect of that is to the emotional body, the inner child, the part of the self that is completely human, the part of the self that is a spiritual expression that has sensitivities, vulnerabilities, and needs, that has a requirement for advocacy. We must advocate for the self. We must lead with the boundaries that preserves our second house. We must not forget to speak up and speak out about it, to assert our needs. Our inner child is relying on, trusting us to speak up for him or her, to include and consider our emotional needs, our sensitivities, to make sure that at all times we get to enjoy a safe space for our vulnerabilities. Compromising, arguing, negotiating, whatever the case may be, we have to assert it. We're responsible for doing that. Releasing self-justification. Are you not done with explaining yourself so much? Feeling like you always have to explain yourself, like you always got to justify what you're doing. Basically, what you're doing when you do that, you're asking people permission to be yourself. You're asking people permission to express yourself. You're asking people permission to be who you are, how you are. And that's not something you can ask permission for. So this indicates an underlying intention with this transit, this 6-month transit, of teaching us to release our need to constantly justify ourselves every time we turn around. You know what I mean? There's a part of you that has to be considered that's not of the flesh, that's not of the outer, features, but it's something of the inner self that needs to be respected and honored. And we made it okay for our society to not include that part or not respect that part, to not consider that part. Again, going to the Machiavellian extremes, going to that Capricorn, Saturn, 10th house, shadow extreme, which doesn't include the human in us. Okay. That is, for example, that's like the insensitive father. Okay. The father who's stoic, who doesn't consider the feelings of the wife or the children. Okay. He's very cold, hardcore, and stoic. And, he doesn't honor sensitivities, fears, sadness, different things like that. He doesn't bend the knee to that. Okay. This is where the Divine Mother says, hey, you need to think of other people's feelings. You need to consider what they're going through emotionally. You need to be sensitive to it, and you need to speak to it. You need to acknowledge it. You need to make a safe space for where they need to cry and complain. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. So this is where we balance that back out, but without feeling like we have to over-explain ourselves, in order for other people to feel comfortable with it. Okay? This is where we let go of trying to make other people feel so comfortable about what we need to feel comfortable about, because that's not our job. Stop over-explaining yourself. Learn how to say no without so much explanation. Learn how to state your boundaries without over justifying it. And there's some things that you don't need to explain. Have you ever told somebody, no, thank you, I'm good? But you always feel like you got to be explaining. Yeah, because usually I don't like to, and then this, and then that. You're asking permission. And we don't have to ask permission, because remember, freedom is what this is about, right? Okay, remember, we're at the step of freedom, deliverance, wilderness, freedom. If we're at the step of freedom, if you're truly free, you're not asking permission to be yourself. You're not asking permission to advocate for yourself, to you know, accommodate what the self needs. Okay, this is about giving self all of the accommodations that it needs without explaining and justifying why you're doing it. You're doing it because it's what you need. You know what I'm saying? At the office, oh, yeah, you think you can stay over? No, I'm not able to stay over. But you feel like you got to explain yourself. Yeah, because I got this going on, I got that. No, I'm not able to stay over. You need to ask someone else. I'm not in a position to do that. You know what I'm saying? You're not explaining yourself. Oh, so you're not, a husband or a wife might say, oh, so you're not going to do this and that for me or whatever. You find the right words for things. You understand? But you're not living at the mercy, permission, or authority of other people. You're taking your freedom. So be free. Accommodate for your emotional needs. Accommodate and advocate for your inner child's sensitivities and needs, limitations, thresholds. All right? But discontinue self-justification and over-explaining. Discontinue that. Okay? Our selfish claim without apology, again, we're not apologizing either. There's no need for an apology. What you need is what you need. What's important or essential to you is what remains essential to you. And it's not something that you should feel apologetic about. We have to stop apologizing. We only harbor resentment when we get into these behaviors because we fail to advocate for the self. And the anger inside, we get it confused as being anger to direct at someone else when really you're angry at yourself. Righteous anger. We're supposed to learn that with the Cancer Mars retrograde. Not apologizing for asserting yourself and for what you need, advocating for what you need, insisting upon what you need. That ends now. You're claiming your emotional freedom. You're setting your inner child free. Understand, you are authorizing your needs. Let's get clear about that. Where does it really come from where we practice self-justification? Now, it may surprise you that what it's really about is you are hearing yourself or feeling yourself in contradiction to your identity or in contradiction with your values. You are realizing or questioning whether or not you are speaking, thinking, or behaving in a way that's consistent with your identity, your self-image, or the values that you believe you should be consistent with. It's a cognitive dissonance that's taking place. And that's why you're sitting there over-explaining yourself, trying to make yourself feel better about what you're doing, trying to make yourself feel better about what you're saying, trying to make yourself feel better about what position you're taking, because you have doubt in yourself. You don't even believe what you're saying. You don't even believe in what you're doing. So releasing self-justification, really where this comes from, is that Jupiter is enhancing and expanding our realization of our identity, which is the sun. Are you following? Jupiter in the new moon, Cancer, is conjunct the sun and moon. This conjunction of the sun with Jupiter, it expands and puts confidence, it puts optimism, and it puts a sense of clarity in who you are. It emphasizes your personal identity and expression, making you uh, in a position of greater realization of yourself. Okay? So, what you do and what you say every day, what you are guaranteed to do and say every day, is consistent with your heart, soul, urge expression, which is the numerological value of the day you were born. Okay? So, when you doubt who you are, when you're not clear about that, you live your life always trying to clarify, justify, and over explain because you're not clear in your identity. So Jupiter is having the effect of expanding your acceptance and realization, the confidence that you have in who you're supposed to be. It's expanding the confidence that you have in you knowing that this is exactly how you're supposed to express yourself. You know, like that number one, where you know that you're supposed to, you know, you're supposed to be the troubleshooter. You're supposed to be the person who finds solutions. You're supposed to be the person who takes initiative. You're supposed to be the person who assumes responsibility, and it increases your realization of that through Jupiter, the confidence that you have in that through Jupiter, an optimistic attitude and enthusiasm about being that person. And you find yourself no longer explaining yourself, but simply asserting yourself. Asserting yourself. Please listen to every little word that I'm saying. You understand? Okay? So, this is about resolving the inconsistencies with ourselves concerning our self-image, identity, values, beliefs, things of that nature, and overcoming the cognitive dissonance based on the noise of the feedback that we get from other people that causes us to feel doubt about who we are. Okay? So Jupiter is overriding all of that and is saying, no, you're going to feel and accept who you know you are. You're going to be clear in this, you're going to be confident in this, and you're going to assert yourself in this, and you're not going to make doubts about it anymore. All right? This will end the apologies, okay, of the self. Now, other places where this could show up, if you aren't clear, okay, about your numerological expression, which is why it's so important, okay, that you get this reading with me. All right? You need to understand your numerology. Your identity is all in your numerology. All right? That heart, soul, urge expression, if you're not clear about what it's meant to do, what it's here to do, you will feel shame, doubt, guilt, fear, apprehension, hesitation about expressing it. And you'll feel like you'll have to apologize and you'll have to, over explain why you're doing something. You spent money on certain things, and because you aren't clear on your identity, that the real reason, underlying reason why you spent money on those particular things, and may not agree with or may not be understood to the people around you. But what does that have to do with you expressing who you are? You understand what I'm saying? For example, let's say you have second house cancer. You tend to spend money on domestic matters, on household matters, okay? But someone who has, say Sagittarius second house, they tend to spend money on experiences. You see? So you're trying to justify who you are to someone who's not who you are, okay? You're trying to justify Cancer intent to a Sagittarius intent, So we all are different. And the self-acceptance is what's arriving here. Emotional freedom is what's arriving here. Sitting in the seat of the self and being free in the self is what's arriving here. Let's be clear about this. Again, I can't emphasize enough. If you're not getting your natal birth chart readings and being clear about these things, you're not investing in your understanding. These are things that you're going to have to, take many years in figuring out. The sessions is what really helps. What happens, what takes place in the background, behind the scenes. You understand? Come behind the scenes with me so we could really master these things. I could show you better than I could tell you. Understand? Now, this also aligns with hypocrisy. Okay, cognitive dissonance goes along the line with hypocrisy. All right, who you say you are, who you know you are, is not lining up with what you're doing, and you realize that. You know what I'm saying? So we can reduce a lot of this by making sure that we're consistent, that we're not in contradiction with our identity. You know, that's part of it. So clarity in the self, clarity in the self, it's everything. It's where it starts at. When you don't have identity, you are indecisive. You're all over the place when you do not have identity. You don't know what opinion to have. You don't know what conclusion to make. You don't know what to select, what to choose. And I tell you, females struggle with this more than anyone. Females. Females struggle with identity more than anyone. It takes considerable effort for females to ground themselves in identity. I'm telling you that right now. It is the hardest lesson for females to be consistent with identity. Very difficult. And this is why you ask a female, yo, what do you want to eat? Good luck. It'll be 5 hours later. What are you gonna wear? Good luck. Honey, you want to go shop with me to go pick out a dress for the event? Good luck. You will be there for 8 hours in the mall for 8 hours. You know what I mean? DoorDash. I thought I wanted that, but I don't really want that. I want yours. You know what I mean? You at the restaurant ordering something. Okay, honey, what you want? Oh, I want the, filet mignon, blah, 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 blah. You get it? That ain't really what I wanted. Can I have some of yours? They are infamous. Females are infamous for that. Okay? So, understanding your numerology, okay? It could get you there. Understanding your natal chart, it could clear so much up. It will really fight that battle for you. Understand? Now, Cancer, Mercury is going to square Aries Chiron, all right? And it's going to last for a while. Essentially, what this is, identity pains that challenges sensitive communications. So naturally, what's going to rise into this portal of these transformations that's taken place is our identity and the insecurities that we have about reintroducing our identity. It's going to run into a crisis where we're struggling to find the right words, the tone, the time, and the place, okay, to nip things in the bud as it goes. Because really what this is about is you're having to reintroduce yourself as a free person, according to all that I explained before this, okay? You're reintroducing yourself as a free person. But what it is that the pain in the identity is, am I worthy of having these accommodations? Am I worthy of being respected this way? Am I in position to? Do I have the right to be, respected this way? And I'm here to say, yes, you do. Yes, you do. But also what I'm here to say is, don't be a contradiction. Don't be a contradiction. There are immature people walking the earth who think that they should be respected while they themselves are not respecting themselves, who think that someone should honor their boundaries when clearly they have no boundaries for themselves. If you want to be taken serious, take yourself serious. If you want to be respected, respect yourself. If you want to be honored, honor yourself. Everything reflects how you're dealing with yourself. Understand? And you're not going to fool anybody. Everybody sees what you're doing with yourself. Everybody sees it. It is clear to see if you don't respect yourself. It is clear to see if you have no boundaries with yourself. Nobody cares about what's coming out your mouth. It's about what you're showing, what you're demonstrating. Don't be a contradiction to what you're expecting of others. Don't contradict yourself. You want to be respected? Be respectable. You want to be trusted? Be trustworthy. You have to be that principle if that's what you want. You have to be it. Otherwise, it is entitlement. It is simple entitlement. Entitlement is over because that goes with delusions. We're not having delusions no more. Nobody is entitled. Nobody deserves shit. Shut the fuck up about what you deserve. All this, oh, girl, you deserve, girl, you deserve, girl, you deserve, and girl, you know you deserve, and girl, you deserve, bitch, you don't deserve a motherfucking thing. You don't deserve shit except what you earn. That's what you deserve. All this deserving talk is entitlement. And entitlement comes along when we're expecting something that we didn't earn. We're expecting something that we didn't earn or sacrifice for. Something that we didn't purchase. Don't nobody owe you shit. Nobody. Don't nobody owe you nothing. Respect me, I'm a woman. Bitch, show me a woman first. Then I'll respect your monkey ass. Fuck out of here with that shit. Show me a woman and I'll respect you. Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to be waiting a long time. Put a fucking dick in your mouth. Fuck you. Just because you a woman, you should be respected? No, fuck you. Respect yourself. Then I'm going to respect you, bitch. That's how that shit work, bitch. Yeah, try that on. You want respect, but you don't respect yourself. No, it don't work like that. Fuck your entitlement. Put a fucking dick in your mouth. Fuck your entitlement. That's 100% real right there. That's a full shot with no Coke, no Sprite. That's the real right there. Fuck your entitlement. Suck a fucking dick. All these bitches walking around, oh, respect me, and you don't even respect women, and you don't respect. Respect don't come just because you a fucking female. Every female ain't a woman, but every woman is a female. Yeah, figure that riddle out. Figure that. Let's see how high your IQ is. Figure that riddle out. Yeah, right there. Put it on my desk in the morning. You heard? Cancer, Mercury, square Aries, Chiron. Yeah, it's gonna hurt a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Because what you're gonna see is that your full expression of your identity, Aries, Chiron, okay, it's at the mercy of your ability to articulate your boundaries, your needs, your vulnerabilities. It's at the mercy of your ability to advocate for yourself. It's at the mercy of your ability to communicate and speak up for yourself. You see? And so that's the square. So if you allow Mercury to speak up for you, okay, which remember is closing at the 29th to 27th, 28th degree of Cancer at the time that this takes place. All right. So what it is you are saying the last words that takes you out of the bind of the suppression of the identity, which is the square to Aries Chiron. Okay, you're saying the final words that takes you out of that bind. In other words, every person in your circle, every person around you, you're reintroducing yourself with the right words that puts everybody on notice that, okay, I know you were used to me being this way, but this is the way I am now, and you go respect it because this is what I'm on. This is what I'm about. You know what I mean? You're putting everybody on notice. So it's hard conversations that got to be had. Pink elephants in the room that's addressed, finding the right words delivery, you know what I mean? Because on the other side of that, Mercury got to go into Leo, and that's when the expression pick up a little drama, you know? It picks up some theatrics. It picks up a higher frequency, you know? And it feels a greater sense of freedom and velour. You know what I'm saying? Once it gets into Leo. But first, it has to solve that square crisis with the identity, okay? There's a sensitivity right there. I don't feel deserving to be treated this way, or I don't feel like I deserve to speak up for myself. You know what I mean? You got to stop treating yourself like a fucking small ant, because how you feel about yourself is how other people going to feel about you. So you want to walk around here acting like a fucking slave? You know what I mean? You want to walk around here acting like, you $20 short? Yeah. Okay? That's how people gonna keep on treating you. You gotta snap about that shit. Pick your frequency up, pick up your head, regardless of how you feel inside of yourself. Fake it till you make it if you got to. But pick that head up, you know what I'm saying? Not to a position of arrogance, but to a position of confidence. You know what I'm saying? Pick up your voice, speak up for yourself. You know what I mean? Nip this shit in the bud. Put niggas on notice. But don't be in contradiction to what you're expecting of treatment from other people. Okay? By you not treating yourself that way. Understand? You know what I'm saying? Because people ain't stupid. Heard up. Anyway, schedule 4, your natal birth chart reading concerning Cancer new moon conjunct Jupiter. You want to know what this means for you on an individual basis, specifically for you. You want to know what it means for you. You can't just go with these, videos, which is great, but you need to know personally what this means for you. Every time it's a transit, you should be getting to read it. You know what I'm saying? Knowing what's going down, staying in line, staying prepared. Understand what I'm saying? Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Okay? Show the support. Yeah.